research is just incredible how eating the same exact thing, like even if you took like a dinner, for example, where you have salmon, broccoli, and rice. If you eat the rice first and then the salmon and then the broccoli, you're going to have a completely different blood sugar response than if you ate the broccoli first and then the salmon and then the rice. And it's more beneficial to eat in that order: the fiber, protein, fat, and then carbohydrates. Your blood sugar is going to stay more stable. So even not just blood sugar, but just in terms of, again, the results that are going to happen on your skin, or even your weight, your metabolism, it all makes a difference.
Maria Marlowe is a nutritionist who specializes in acne, and she has over a decade of experience. Maria has helped thousands to not only improve their skin and reduce inflammation, but also just improve their overall health naturally with just their diet and lifestyle. Because I get so many questions about what we can be doing internally to support our skin and our health in general, I wanted to have her on to really dig deep into the gut-skin connection, how what we're eating, what we're drinking, what we're doing with our exercise and lifestyle is affecting our skin, whether it be acne or premature aging or just overall inflammation. This episode covers so much of that, and it's also going to give you some tangible tips and even some simple recipes that you could literally go out and make today to start improving your skin from the inside out and really supporting your skin and your overall health. We talk about this on the podcast, but for decades we kind of discounted how much our diet and lifestyle affects our skin. But now the evidence is mounting more and more every year, every decade, how much what we're eating internally and also what we're doing, how we're living our lives actually affects our skin with our acne, like I said, with inflammation, with premature aging. So there are so many little things that we can change in addition to what we're putting on our skin topically that can just make such a big difference. So I know you guys are going to love this episode. Make sure you take some notes, and you're going to want to start a grocery list too, because there's so many little snacks and foods on this episode that we can start incorporating for better skin. So without further ado, here is Maria Marlowe. Thank you so much for being here. I like to start off every podcast with asking, what is your first skincare memory?
My first skincare memory is probably going to the drugstore to get Clearasil to put on my pimples that I started getting after my 16th birthday. And I remember just feeling like I was playing whack-a-mole. You know, I'd put it on one, then another one would pop up, and just have to kind of like keep putting it on, but they kept popping up.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I find that that's probably one of the most confusing areas of skincare is treating pimples and like spot treating, and how that's really not the most effective way to treat acne. But when we're growing up, we think, okay, we have a pimple, we put something on the pimple to make it go away, but that's not the most effective way to treat acne at all. And you are really an acne expert, especially when it comes to nutrition. And I want to touch a little bit on hormonal acne, because it's so common amongst adult women, and that's the majority of the people who listen to this show. And it's often said that hormonal acne is kind of out of our control, right? It's our internal hormones. We have no control over them, and we just have to live with it or use topical medications, which of course do help. But there are some dietary and lifestyle factors that do affect our hormonal acne. So I wanted to hear from you kind of what some of those are and what approach we can take internally if we're struggling with hormonal acne.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I always say, if we have a hormonal imbalance or hormonal acne, don't blame your hormones, blame the diet and lifestyle factors that may be causing the hormones to become imbalanced. And so there are so many things in our diet and our lifestyle that can affect hormones, but I would say three really, really big ones. So one would be consuming too much sugar. So if we have a lot of refined carbohydrates and sugary foods in our diet, this can actually negatively impact our hormones and of course our blood sugar, resulting in more breakouts. So making sure that we're keeping our blood sugar stable is really important for not just hormonal acne, but hormonal balance in general. Another thing that I think nobody realizes is that constipation is actually linked to hormonal imbalance, because the way that we excrete excess hormones is actually through our stool. So if we, our body is trying to get rid of, like around our period, for example, through our cycle, our body's trying to get rid of these excess hormones, but we're constipated, they can actually get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, contributing to imbalance. So it's really important for anyone with hormonal acne, hormonal imbalances, that you're keeping your body regular and you're going and eliminating daily and completely. And another thing, that could affect hormonal imbalance is like the health of our liver. So we live in a day and age where we're exposed to a lot of things, right? A lot of chemicals in our cleaning products, our hair products, our skincare, our makeup, our food, our water, the pollution, right? So we're kind of like constantly bombarding our liver. And our liver is the organ that breaks down those hormones. And so if it becomes a bit sluggish and overworked, it may not be working optimally. So that could be, part of the issue in terms of hormonal imbalance. So we want to make sure that we're eating plenty of cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, kale. All of these foods really support the liver and help the liver do its job of processing toxins and excess hormones. So those are just 3 areas. Stress would be another one. I think that, again, we live in a time where our stress level is just like at a higher set point, but it can absolutely negatively impact our hormones, not getting enough sleep. All of these things can take a toll on your hormones.
It's funny because I remember a time when in dermatology, and I'm thinking specifically when I was young with acne, seeing my primary care provider and them saying like, no, what you're eating has nothing to do with it. Your stress levels have nothing to do with it. And now, in the last 10 to 15 years, there's more and more mounting evidence that these things do really have an impact on our skin, especially with acne. So it's just funny that there was such a harsh stance on this years ago, but now we're really seeing the evidence for what we kind of already suspected, especially if you've ever had acne and you've gone through it and you start kind of connecting the dots. Those are things that we kind of intuitively know. But I have a couple follow-up questions to what you said. Number one, how many times a day should we be going to the bathroom?
So definitely once a day for sure, but maybe even 2 or 3 times a day. You don't want to be going over them more than that. The important part is that you're eliminating completely, because here's the other side of it. You could be going every single day and still be constipated if you're not eliminating completely or fully. So we want to make sure that we're really cleaning everything out every single day. And for each of us, it might look a little bit different, depending on our diet, but you definitely want to be eliminating daily and perhaps up to 2 or 3 times a day.
Okay. And when it comes to blood sugar, it is so important not only for someone who has acne, but our overall skin health, right? And we also know that continuous increased blood sugar levels are linked to advanced signs of aging, so premature signs of aging, and a host of other skin issues. But I find that a lot of the audience is still a little bit confused, and I was for a long time too. I actually had gestational diabetes in my pregnancy, so it kind of really revamped how I looked at blood sugar, because I was quote unquote healthy, but I realized that there were things I was eating in excess that, although were health foods, still were not supporting my blood sugar. So what are some sneaky things we might be eating that we think are healthy? Like maybe some vegetables or other carbohydrates that we think might be healthy, but could be contributing to increased blood sugar levels for some of us.
Yeah, like instant oatmeal is a really big one. Oatmeal in general, but particularly the instant oatmeal, which is the one that's sort of a powder and it's ready in a minute. The more you refine a grain, the more surface area it has, so the more likely it is to increase your blood sugar levels. So if you compared instant oats to, for example, steel cut oats, the instant oats are going to raise your blood sugar more. Now, especially if you're just throwing fruit on top of that and nothing else. So, in that case, what you would want to do is, first of all, choose the steel cut oats. You would want to, add some more protein and healthy fat in there, some nuts, seeds, nut butters. I also like adding collagen powder as well, or you could add a protein powder, and then you can put the fruit on top. And then because you have the fiber, the protein, the fat, that's going to help keep your blood sugar more stable. Another one, fruit. Fruit is an incredibly healthy food. I think you mentioned those advanced glycation end products that, can accelerate our aging. Fruit is so beneficial for so many reasons, and studies show that actually people who consume more fruit tend to have younger looking skin. But you don't want to eat like a cup of pineapple at 3 p.m. on an empty stomach, because that is going to spike your blood sugar more than if you had that pineapple after your lunch, after you ate a complete and well-balanced meal. Or maybe you had some flax crackers and hummus first, and then you had the pineapple. So the order in which you eat foods also matters, and making sure that you're there's a saying like in the nutrition world, no naked carbs. So when you are eating carbs, you want to dress them up. You want to dress them up with fiber, protein, fat, and that's going to help to keep your blood sugar more stable. So grains, fruit, even savory foods, like things like crackers. I think people are often surprised that a savory cracker could also spike your blood sugar, especially again if you're just eating the cracker. So again, you'd want to pair it with some guacamole or hummus or like something that is going to add that protein, that fiber, that healthy fat to blunt that blood sugar spike.
Yeah, this was the biggest change that helped me with the gestational diabetes, was just the order in which I was eating my food and not eating naked carbs. Like, I would snack on an apple. I was running around all day long. That would be my snack. Instead, I would have an apple with nut butter or a handful of almonds first, things like that, which really, really helped me manage it without any issues. But these are just little things we're not taught, right? We don't understand that we could be eating a healthy diet. And I love fruit. I call myself a fruit bat. I eat so much of it. But just changing the way that I eat it really, really helped. And all these little things that we're not taught, that we don't learn throughout school, even as medical providers, it's just making these small little changes can make such a big difference. And I'm going to send this little clip to my husband, because we give our daughter steel cut oats, and I do, almond butter. I even put a little Greek yogurt in there. We do with little pumpkin seeds. And then him, on the other hand, when he goes to the grocery store, will buy the instant oatmeal, and I hide it on the top shelf, because I'm like, no one else is eating this. Like, if you want it, you can have it, but no one else is going to eat this. Don't give it to Josie. And so I'm going to send him this little clip so he knows he can make it a lot healthier at home.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the research is just incredible, how eating the same exact thing, like even if you took like a dinner, for example, where you have salmon, broccoli, and rice, if you eat the rice first and then the salmon and then the broccoli, you're going to have a completely different blood sugar response than if you ate the broccoli first and then the salmon and then the rice. And it's more beneficial to eat in that order: the fiber, protein, fat, and then carbohydrates. Your blood sugar is going to stay more stable. So even not just blood sugar, but just in terms of, again, the results that are going to happen on your skin, or even your weight, your metabolism, it all makes a difference.
Yeah, I've heard some really cool anecdotal stories of people just changing the order in which they eat their food, and then maybe going for a walk after a meal, and just those changes without actually decreasing calories has made such a difference in their weight loss journey, which is really, really cool that something so simple could make such a big difference. And we know that it all links back to our blood sugar levels. How do you feel, this is a little aside, but how do you feel about CGMs for people who don't have diabetes?
So if you are struggling with a skin issue, or any sort of issue that may be exacerbated by blood sugar issues, then I think they're actually cool. Because it's one thing to tell someone like, oh, don't eat pineapple on an empty stomach, but it's another thing for them to actually see it on their phone and be like, oh my God, when I ate that pineapple, my blood sugar went like this. And so I do think it could be a good tool to use in limited amounts. It's not something that you want to do long term. 2 weeks, honestly, is fine. Most of them are for a month. If you want to do it for 2 weeks, do it for 2 weeks. You're going to get all the data points that you need in 2 weeks. I will say, because I've used them before, because again, I wanted to test it out and see. And for me, what was actually most surprising, because I kind of know, these in terms of like eating in the order. When I was stressed, my blood sugar was like whoosh, more than the pineapple, more than, any sort of carbohydrate. My blood sugar spiked the most with stress. So even like in terms of that, it's a really good sort of way to keep yourself accountable and to help you focus on the things that are important, and understand where, okay, maybe I can improve.
Yeah, and we know that everyone's biology is a bit different too. So the way that we react to certain things is going to be different than our friend. I actually just ordered a CGM for the first time. I've never used one before, but as my husband and I kind of look to the future and we're thinking about expanding our family, I'm like, I want to just know now, that way, because I feel like I'm very in tune with the way I'm feeling. When I get reactive hypoglycemia, I can feel it, but I just want to have some more data points to kind of reference. That way down the road, if we do get pregnant again, and, I know that I'm at risk for another gestational diabetes pregnancy, I'll have all the tools that I need to really set myself up for success from the beginning. So I'm anxious to see how that CGM works out. I'm going to just do it for a month. But I noticed that when I have coffee, I do a half coffee in the morning, and I'm not a big breakfast person. I'm trying to get better. I just don't have an appetite in the morning. I definitely find that on the days I have my coffee before my breakfast, my blood sugar's off all day long, even if I'm eating the same. So I'm really anxious to see those numbers and have it whip me into shape, make me eat breakfast before I drink my coffee.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an incredible tool in that way because it is so individualized and it's not just like, okay, here are the 5 rules or, 7 rules to go by. It's like, no, I actually know when I do this, this happens. So you're more inclined to actually eat your breakfast before the coffee because you can see the results on your phone.
Yeah, there's no denying it, right? When you're looking right at the data. And what about alcohol? How does alcohol use affect our skin?
So alcohol is not great for our skin. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer. There's a few things going on. One, and if you're having a drink here or there once in a while, this is not what I'm talking about. That's fine. Your body can process it. Like it's fine. It's when we're drinking more than say two drinks at a time and multiple days a week. And what happens is when we consume alcohol, it is a liver toxin. So our liver does have to, go to work and processing that. So if we're constantly, over drinking or drinking, very frequently, we're taxing our liver, which again, we talked about earlier. We don't want to tax our liver because it's breaking down not just alcohol, but other toxins and hormones. So that's the issue. It's also creating inflammation in the gut. And when we create inflammation in the gut, it doesn't stay in the gut. It goes systemic or body wide. And we know a lot of chronic diseases and even skin diseases are exacerbated or triggered by inflammation. It's dehydrating. And it is indeed associated with, like excessive consumption alcohol is associated with both reproductive hormonal imbalances in both men and women, and also issues with regulating your blood sugar, which we know is important for so many things. So it's not your friend, but doesn't mean you can never drink it. It's just you don't want to drink excessively and kind of just stick to, a good kind of guideline to go by is 1 to 2 drinks at a time, 1 to 2 times a week max, and try not to go over that.
And I think alcohol is one of those things similar to managing your blood sugar. Once you kind of get on the right track, you find that you're not really craving it so much, especially like someone like me. I was someone who always liked a glass of wine with my dinner. And I would crave that at the end of the day. It was like my wind down. But once you get out of that routine, the same with having your sweet or your dessert at the end of the day, once you get out of that routine, you feel so much better and your body stops craving that. You just have to get through that little hump where when you first cut it out, you don't have to cut it out completely, but when you first cut back, your body wants it. And then eventually you kind of get over that hump and you start to feel better and you don't crave it so much.
Exactly. And that's the thing. When you feel better, you want to do the thing, and that goes for cutting the sugar, cutting the alcohol, eating more fruits and vegetables and healthy foods. Like you feel so good that you don't want to kind of like slip back to how you're feeling before. And I think sometimes when we're used to feeling a certain way, like low energy or just, not our best, like we don't even realize it. We just think that's the way that we are. But when we make these small changes and we feel better, it really encourages us to keep it up.
Yeah, we were on a little trip with friends this weekend, and on Saturday, we woke up and everyone wanted to go to this donut shop at the city that we were in. And I'm really mindful about what I'm eating around my daughter just because she's only 2, so she hasn't yet had like refined sugar. It's not something I'm never going to let her have, but she's young enough that she doesn't miss it. She doesn't know. So I don't really eat those things around her because then, of course, whatever I'm eating, she's going to want. But I was like, if I eat this donut now, I'm going to feel like crap all day long. It's not worth it. Like in sitting there, I didn't even crave it because this has been a journey for me for a while and I don't have those things very often anymore. I don't deprive myself if I really want it, but I don't have them all the time. And I looked at it and I was like, that doesn't even look appetizing to me. Like I want to go get some eggs or something. So it really does, once you change, your diet a little bit and you start to become in tune with what those reactive hypoglycemic episodes feel like when your blood sugar drops after you've had something sweet, later on. It's just a terrible feeling and you want to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up this very easy hack in terms of getting rid of sugar cravings and keeping your blood sugar more stable, which is simply to start with a savory breakfast. So when we taste sweet things, especially first thing in the morning, that sets off our blood sugar on a roller coaster and we tend to want sweet things for the rest of the day. But when we start with a savory breakfast and adequate protein, so around 30 grams of protein per meal, give or take, that is going to keep us satiated and it's going to keep our blood sugar stable. So you're going to find when you eat a savory breakfast, you don't want that snack later on that you usually have, or that brownie or that cookie or whatever you usually reach for later in the day. And you feel better. Your mind is calmer, like everything's just like a little bit more even keeled when you're starting with a savory breakfast. And I will say, if you do have very strong sugar cravings, you're probably not eating enough protein, because you will find when you do eat adequate protein, you don't even want it. Like the cookie could be there and you're just like, yeah, I don't really need it. I'm not interested. But if you're not, then you're like, I want that cookie, It's you're more likely
It
to want
really
the
is
sweet stuff.
amazing. It's such a difference. And I mean, the cravings can be so strong. And yet, when you are eating adequate protein, I'm thinking of like our lunchroom at work. When I see patients on Wednesdays, there's always something in the back room, cookies or cake. And when I've had a balanced meal or two that day, it doesn't affect me at all. But if I'm hungry or I haven't managed my blood sugar that day, it's like I can't avoid it. I have to have the sweet that's back there. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, the body is interesting. I feel like it's always telling us something. Like if we're willing to listen, it gives us a lot of information.
This episode is brought to you by, well, me. Skinthusiast.com is your one-stop shop for all things skin, hair, and beauty. I have countless blog posts to educate you on all the skin concerns and most common skin questions I receive. We also have a complete skincare basics guide on our shop page, as well as the cutest In My Skin era crew necks. If you want to support the show, please head over to skinthusiast.com/shop. And don't forget to rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And you mentioned gut health when we were talking about alcohol, but how does our gut health affect our skin? Again, this is a newer concept that I think mainstream medicine is just starting to become more attuned to and accept, that our gut has something to do with our skin. But can you explain a little bit about that connection and what we can do to foster it as well?
Yeah, so the gut and the skin are intricately connected. And interestingly, I would say sort of the foundation for what we now call the gut-brain-skin connection, or the gut-skin connection, which I feel like we do hear about more now the past couple of years. The foundations for this actually came almost 100 years ago, like 1920s, 1930s. There were two dermatologists, John H. Stokes and Donald M. Pillsbury, who noticed that many of their patients with acne or other inflammatory skin disorders, they tended to be stressed and they tended to have gut issues. And so they kind of laid the foundation for what we now call this gut-brain-skin connection. And they hypothesized two things. One, that stressful thoughts could disrupt the gut, which we now know in the decades since. We actually do have evidence of this. Stressful thoughts can actually wipe out some of the good bacteria in your gut, allowing some of those more opportunistic bacteria to proliferate and create inflammation. And then secondly, when the gut is disrupted, that disrupts the skin. And we also know now that when we have inflammation in the gut, this spreads throughout the body, and that inflammation can show up on our skin as inflammatory skin disorders. We also know now that people with acne and other inflammatory skin conditions, they tend to lack the good lactobacillus and bifidobacteria strains in their gut, which are the strains that promote anti-inflammatory benefits. They also tend to lack gut microbiome diversity, meaning they don't have a wide variety of strains in their gut. And they are more likely to have increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And so there's definitely a connection there that is undeniable at this point. And of course, more and more studies are continuing to come out and will come out to kind of like further elucidate this connection. It's still quite early, but we do know for sure there is a connection between what's going on in your gut and what's happening on your skin. We've also seen research that certain probiotics can actually improve your skin when they're taken orally. So like, for example, L. rhamnosus sp1 is a particular strain of bacteria that has been shown in like a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial to reduce adult acne in 12 weeks. And so probiotics are really, really important, right? Those are the good bacteria in your gut. And they're going to help you, digest your food. They're going to help with reducing inflammation. They help on so many different fronts, and ultimately they're going to help with our skin. So I personally, as someone who grew up eating a lot of junk food, processed food, standard American diet, my gut was bad. I also was on antibiotics all the time as a kid for every, throat ache, earache, this ache, that ache. So my gut was really a mess. And probiotics, like personally, they really positively impacted my life, my health, beyond just my digestion or my skin. So I actually formulated a probiotic called Glow Bio with probiotics that are specifically shown to target that gut skin connection to help your skin from within, basically. And yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you had your own. That's really cool.
Yeah. So we use 6 clinically validated strains that support that gut skin connection, and we've also actually sent it out for its own clinical trial to see how people's skin reacted. And after 12 weeks, what we found is that it did help to reduce the frequency and severity of breakouts. It helped to normalize sebum production and even increase skin hydration. That's another thing that people don't realize is that your gut health even affects your skin hydration levels. So it's actually it's a fascinating area of research, and I think we're just going to see more and more research on this gut and skin connection.
That's really cool. And I like to see how probiotic companies are starting to really hone in on specific strains, as you mentioned, like what is going to be the most beneficial for our biggest concerns. And I think that's going to be really helpful. Are probiotics something you recommend somebody takes all the time? I've heard some people say you shouldn't be on them all the time. You should cycle on and off. What's your view on that?
Yeah, so they should definitely be taken for long periods, and it could be beneficial to cycle on and off. But after I would say 6 months or so, you may want to cycle. And I think what's really important when choosing probiotics is that you are choosing probiotic strains that you need, because each of us is different. And what we eat and how we live is going to impact our gut microbiome. So we want to make sure we're giving our body, what it needs. And so there are a lot of cool stool tests now that you can do that will actually help you decipher or understand, which strains may be the most beneficial for you and, which ones maybe you have enough of. Additionally, when you're choosing probiotics, you want to choose them based on, okay, which strains, or what is the issue that I want to address, and then let me choose the strains that are going to address that specific issue.
So fascinating. And as far as diet, what are some dietary changes we can make to our diet to support our gut microbiome?
One big thing is simply eating more like a rainbow of colors of vegetables and fruits, which are rich in fiber and polyphenols, which are good bacteria in our gut really love. They're very supportive of a healthy gut microbiome. So that would be one thing. Another thing could be eating fermented foods, which are natural sources of probiotics. So that includes things like sauerkraut, kimchi, traditionally fermented pickles. Anything that's actually fermented is going to be a source of that good bacteria. So you want to aim for about 1 ounce a day, daily, in order to get a decent amount of probiotics. Another thing that's great for our gut health would be bone broth. And bone broth is really healing to the gut lining. So I'd mentioned that increased intestinal permeability before. So bone broth can be really helpful to kind of soothe that gut lining and improve the integrity of the gut lining. And you can also find anything with collagen is also going to be beneficial for the gut, which you can get a collagen supplement, but you can also find that in fish skin or chicken skin, for example. So whenever I'm eating fish, I always make a point to eat the skin. I feel like most people just push it to the side of the plate and then they go buy marine collagen, for $50. I'm like, no, eat the skin. Like that's actually the source of the collagen there.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because I just recently started eating the fish skin for that reason. But I've never thought of it that way. The things that we discard, or people are afraid of chicken skin because of the fat, but then we go out and, then we buy the collagen supplement. It's so funny. That's like the nature. I think if that kind of encompasses our society in a nutshell. Like we're looking for quick, easy fixes, but then we're like ignoring the easiest fix, which is our diet.
Right. And which is right in front of us sometimes.
That's so funny. Is there a collagen supplement you recommend, one that you personally like? Because I'm sure we're going to get that question.
Yeah, so I like anything that's grass-fed is definitely preferable. So there's one from Further Food that I really like. It's odorless and it's tasteless. I don't like when I open the jar and it smells, especially now I'm pregnant, so now I'm like hypersensitive to all the smells. So so I find that one to be like completely odorless, tasteless, And I like that it's also grass-fed.
So speaking of kale and other foods that are very healthy for us, what are like your top 5 skin superfoods, like foods that are really going to help us nourish our skin?
I love ground flaxseed. This was like my little secret weapon when I had really bad acne. I would add about a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to whatever I was eating that day. You could put it in smoothies, on salads, literally on anything. It adds like a nice nutty crunch. And it's a good source of fiber. It's a good source of plant-based omega-3s, which provide anti-inflammatory benefits. And if you think about acne, right, what is it? It's a red, raised little inflammation of the skin, sometimes a big inflammation of the skin. And so anything that's going to help to reduce the inflammation is going to be like a superfood for your skin. So flaxseed is great. And I talk about this a lot on social media, and I get messages all the time. Like, all I did was added flaxseed into my diet, and I'm more regular, and my skin is clearer, you know? So it's just a really great, easy thing to do. On that note, wild salmon is another favorite because that is rich in omega-3. But of course, any omega-3 rich seafood is also great. So things like anchovies, sardines, mackerel, etc. I do love the dark leafy greens. I love the kale, the chard, the arugula, the broccoli. All of that stuff is great. It's a great source of fiber, which is great for our gut, for regularity. Of course, a variety of nutrients. I like to call them like nature's little multivitamins, antioxidants. So yeah, dark leafy greens are great. Also orange fruits and vegetables. So things like sweet potatoes or carrots or butternut squash. The beta-carotene, when we consume the beta-carotene, our body converts that into vitamin A. And vitamin A is a common deficiency amongst people with acne and other inflammatory skin disorders. So that's really beneficial. And what would be one? Ginger. I also really like ginger because ginger is a powerful anti-inflammatory. It's also very soothing on the gut. And because there is a lot of, connection between gut issues and skin issues, anything that's soothing and helpful for the gut is usually going to also be good for the skin.
And when you're consuming ginger, do you do like a raw ginger juice, like a shot, or do you cook it in your foods? What's your favorite way to incorporate it?
I like to cook it in food. I love doing, I used to all the time actually do like these garlic ginger stir fries. So I would do like a stir fry with kale, for example, or any greens or any vegetables. You could also I do this like a beef, like a grass-fed beef with like garlic, ginger, and scallions and like a few other ingredients. But it's delicious stir fried. I also like to do it as a tea. So I'll literally just slice some fresh ginger, put some hot water over it, let it steep, drink that. And I sometimes will add it to juices or to smoothies, but I would say my preferred way to eat it is definitely in food.
That's a good tip. And for those of us who do have a sweet tooth, can you give us like maybe a go-to healthy snack or dessert that you make for yourself that can curb the sweet tooth a little bit but is still beneficial for our skin health and isn't going to raise our blood sugar too much?
Yeah, so I really love banana ice cream. That was also something that I feel like helped me get through when I had really bad sugar cravings and really bad skin. And it's very simple. You freeze some bananas, you peel them, freeze them, keep them in your freezer, and then whenever you want it, you just pop them out, pop 1 or 2 bananas into a blender. Then you want to add a source of protein. So a protein powder, collagen powder, both, so you're getting like 20 to 30 grams of protein in it. And then you could also add nut butter, you could add cacao powder, you could add vanilla, whatever you want to use to kind of like flavor it, and blend that all up without liquid. So you need to have a high-powered blender to really make it, and then it makes like the most delicious soft serve ice cream. And it really hits the spot. Like you literally feel like you're eating ice cream, but you're not. You're eating like fruit and protein, basically.
That sounds delicious. I don't know if you've seen all over social media this like Ninja Creamy machine that has gone viral.
I have seen that. I have never used it. But yeah, I've seen it and it looks everything that comes out of it looks delicious.
Yeah, I haven't tried it either, but I somehow got on that side of the algorithm and I keep getting fed those videos. I feel like that recipe would be so delicious if it was made in one of those. Like, I feel like if anyone listening has a Ninja Creamy and they want a skin snack or skin dessert, I feel like that recipe would be so good. Okay, so since this is a skin podcast, I always like to kind of wrap up with a couple of questions. One of them being, what is your holy grail skin product?
My holy grail skin product is probably tea tree oil. I use it for anything and everything, whether it's like a little blemish or a cut or something. It's antibacterial, it's anti-inflammatory, and it's just very simple and easy. So I kind of like, that's something that I always have in my, in my medicine cabinet.
Super easy. And how do you apply it? Do you dilute it in anything, or do you buy it already diluted, or do you?
So for tea tree oil, I don't dilute it. It's one of the few essential oils that can be used neat. Like lavender is another one, but other than that, you definitely want to dilute your oils. I would say your essential oils. Of course, you always want to test because some people may be more sensitive than others. But for me, I've been using it straight for over a decade, and it works just fine.
Good to know. And what is your most underrated skin tip? Something that we could easily change in our routine that would make an impact.
This might be very different than what you usually hear, but learn how to meditate. I really think that, having a calm mind shows up on your face. And not even just with the acne, but even just like your face looking calmer and less, scrunched, or like, because when we're tense, we end up tensing our face muscles, and they kind of, I don't want to say get stuck that way, but kind of, we kind of start creating lines and things on our face based on our emotions and our mood. And so if we can really calm our mind, it helps to kind of like soften everything. And you will find, I've heard so many people say this, and I feel this myself, when you do start meditating regularly, you feel like your face like softens a little bit, So that would be my...
Yeah, and we know also that there's like this feedback loop too. So like I always tell people who are stressed, like incorporate facial massage into your routine, because our skin will then report back to our brain that we're more calm, and that kind of interrupt that feedback loop of our brain sending those stress hormones to our skin. So there is data to support that, which again, something that 20 years ago would have been laughed at, but we're seeing there is some clinical backing, scientific backing to that. And what is your skincare routine like from start to finish?
So my skincare routine, like my night skincare routine, I use jojoba oil to take my makeup off. That's something I've been doing forever. So I just put that all over my face and then use some cotton to like get all the makeup off. And then I'll cleanse. I kind of like cycle through different cleansers, but I always try to go for a gentle cleanser that's not going to like overstrip my skin. If I feel like something, after I cleanse and my skin feels tight, I'm like, no way, that's not for me, right? Because then I feel like it kind of just exacerbates the oil production. So something very gentle. I do like, there is not a lot of data on probiotic skincare, like topical skincare. That's definitely like even more new than the kind of the gut skin connection stuff. But I have tried a couple of probiotic skincare, which I really like. And I feel it's just like very gentle and calming on the skin. So I'll cleanse with some, like maybe a probiotic cleanser, or I also had this, which I need to reorder, like a turmeric probiotic cleanser that I really liked. And then I spritz with like a hydrosol, and hydrosols are basically water with, it's not essential oil, but it's like when they're distilling the essential oil, it kind of takes the smell of it, but it's not an essential oil in it. So I just use that as to spray my face, and hyaluronic acid on top. I feel like really helps, with hydration. And then I use a very basic moisturizer. So I like, I've been using this Eminence bakuchiol and niacinamide moisturizer. And then that's it for my nighttime routine. And then daytime routine, I don't wash my face. Maybe just splash it with water. If I go to the gym, like splash it with water. But then I'll put on typically like moisturizer and sunscreen, and that's about it. And then, makeup. I really like the Super Goop, the mineral one.
Okay, very last question. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
If I could tell my younger self one thing, I would say that your body is on your side, and any of your ailments are actually a blessing in disguise. They're not a curse. And if you just kind of take the time to listen and try to understand, and give your body what she needs, then she'll, you can kind of heal, I feel like, most things through your diet and lifestyle, if you're willing to kind of like really do the work and kind of uncover where you may be out of balance. And whenever we get things like headaches and period cramps and acne and all of these things, they're just communication from our body. So if we kind of slow down, we listen, we assess what's going on in our life and how we can make some changes, and you make those changes, your body will generally respond. And just to know that your body is on your side. If you give her what she needs, she'll do what you want, basically.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know you have a couple guides, don't you, on your website to help people kind of navigate all of these issues?
Yeah, I have something called the Clear Skin Plan, which is a 90-day program that helps you figure out potential diet and lifestyle root causes of acne and then remedy them with diet and lifestyle changes to clear your skin. So that's on my site. And then I also have like a nutrition course that's more for kind of like health in general and maintaining a healthy weight. So that's all over on mariamarlowe.com, and Marlowe is spelled Marlowe. So yeah, there's a lot of information on there. I have some books. One's called the Real Food Grocery Guide, which is like a very practical guide to healthy eating. So yeah, there's a ton of information on there. It's a rabbit hole.
Amazing. A lot of resources. So we'll link your website below so people can kind of peruse. And I'm excited to hear that you have a probiotic. We'll link that. Is that already available? Is that already
It is.
launched?
We actually just we launched about a year and a half ago. We recently sold out, but we are back in stock tomorrow. So yes, we're back in stock, and I'd love to send you some as well. So I'll definitely.
Yeah, I would love to try it, and we'll leave a link below. And then on your website, do you have any of the? I'm sure you have like a science portion where you talk about the clinical data.
Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So I'll link that below so people can check out the results of the clinical studies if they want. So thank you so much, Maria, for coming on just potentially days before you have a baby. I'll be thinking of you and sending you positive vibes, that everything goes smoothly and is an amazing experience.
Thank you so much for having me on. And it's been a pleasure to chat.
Of course. Maria generously gave us a code for her probiotic. I also did a deep dive after talking to her on the science section of their website to make sure that it was something I would support, because as I mentioned, when I first had her on, I didn't know that she had a probiotic. I just wanted to hear all about the amazing information she had for the gut-skin connection and acne as a nutritionist with over a decade of experience. So I did a little bit of a deep dive on her probiotic, and it's actually really fascinating. So I'm going to link the science portion below so you guys can look at the results of their clinical studies. And she also gave us code SKINthusiast so you guys can get 10% off your order if you want to try that probiotic, which is really specific for skin health and for acne. And I just learned so much from Maria. I hope that you guys took away some tips on some very simple changes you can make to your diet and lifestyle to help support your skin. I know, as I said in this episode, when I made very simple changes like the order in which I ate my food or having a fiber snack before I was eating a dessert, I noticed such a big change in the way I was feeling, and then that all trickled down to my inflammation and just the state of my skin. So I hope you guys took away some tips. I want to choose someone from this episode to send a little goodie box if you just share that you're watching or listening to this episode on your stories and tag both of us on Instagram. I want to send you a little goodie box just to show my support. Whenever you guys share episodes that are really interesting to you, it helps the show grow, which is of course helpful for me because then I can get more and more guests on to give you their expert advice. So thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next week, Skin Enthusiasts.